Italian economist and banker Ettore Gotti Tedeschi was president of the Vatican's bank at a time of turmoil. Amid a money laundering inquiry, the Holy See's opaque finances came under unprecedented scrutiny. Tedeschi was sacked for alleged dereliction of duty. He claimed he was trying to introduce transparency. So what does he make of the Vatican and the world of high finance today? Euronews met him in Milan. Mr. Tedeschi, you were the president of the Institute for Works of Religion, the Vatican's bank, during the papacy of Benedict XVI. You asked for the help of leading experts on money laundering to bring the Vatican back onto the transparency whitelist. Why did the Vatican not accept your plan?
Many people didn't understand what had happened after the 11th of September 2001 and didn't understand that the new international regulations which determine banking systems were going to become stricter. Secondly, numerous people in the Vatican were afraid of a loss of sovereignty in agreeing to yield to these new international norms. Thirdly, in terms of culture, many people believe that the controls are not legitimate because at the Vatican there are facts, events to defend. And so people confuse on the one hand secrets with confidentiality on the other hand. They didn't understand that in the context in which we were living, the absence of internal controls would have provoked more external controls. Fourth point, there were people who didn't understand that the danger concerning this anti-money laundering legislation would lead to a loss of credibility for the Holy Father. The problem at the heart of this debate is that they tried to deter me and pursued me, giving 9 totally false reasons. I demanded an immediate inquiry on these 9 points, and there never was one. And no one ever asked me about it. And what hurts most, and what remains even in the Church, is that they didn't want to understand the truth, nor to know my truth.
But when you were dramatically sacked, you were afraid for your safety, and you also compiled a dossier on the Vatican bank's secrets.
No, the facts went in a completely different way. However, all that is a question which was passed on to the public prosecutor. I prefer not to speak about it.
Moneyval, the Council of Europe's Committee of Experts tasked with counteracting money laundering, has always identified numerous shortcomings in the Vatican's finances, in particular in the field of laundering. In your opinion, is Pope Francis able to sort things out?
Moneyval carried out 2 important inspections at the time of my mandate as president of the bank. The first in November 2011, when it came to see what we'd done the previous year, and it gave a very positive opinion. Then in December 2011, a month later, the Vatican's law on the matter changed against all expectations. 4 points of law were modified, and in particular the role of the controlling authority. The VatiLeaks scandal broke at that moment, and one bank, JP Morgan, closed its account at the Vatican with an enormous media impact. Moneyval came back to Italy once again, and in April 2012 it wrote a second report in which it said, "You've taken a step backwards," but a month later I was no longer there.
Do you think in the Vatican bank money is still being embezzled?
I don't know everything, but if there's no law, if the procedures are not there, and if there's no controlling authority, it's obvious that there's a risk.
In any case, could Pope Francis resolve things?
If Pope Francis wants to really take measures and not only make declarations about reform in a similar way to Prime Minister Matteo Renzi, he should find out about what happened.
Anche Hollywood, col film The Big Short.
Even Hollywood denounces the criminal cynicism of the world of high finance in the US. I'm thinking of the high-risk mortgage loans, toxic products. But in your opinion, is it enough that a banker is motivated by good intentions to neutralize the harmful consequences of these actions?
In this precise case, the limit of cynicism comes not from the banking world, but from the world of politicians, who, in struggling against the crisis, crisis, falling GDP, and hoping to reduce debt without doing a proper debt reduction process triggered the famous animal instinct of bankers who were eager to be able to act freely. The responsibility is personal, Mr. Valenti. There was no collective responsibility. Each person should know whether what he does is good or not good for himself and for the common good.
But how can we accept that a banker can receive bonuses for toxic financial products and not be pursued by the justice system?
If you want a technical explanation, it's simple. From a moral point of view, my opinion is there should never be a bonus like that, and if a banker has had them, he should give them back.
Le decisioni economiche
Economic decisions are taken by informed people between New York and Washington. In Brussels, they send their conclusions with a note where they write "to do." That's what you wrote in the book you published with the journalist Paolo Gambi, The Devil's Job.
pubblicato recentemente con il giornalista Paolo Gambi.
Now, I want to ask, on the international level, do you think Europe counts for nothing?
A livello internazionale non conti nulla.
I believe that today we should ask ourselves this question, but what is it that counts? Today, no one knows where the power lies. Europe could have a very big advantage, that of being a point of balance. It could support the strategy of the United States, which is very worried because Asia is experiencing dramatic growth, or Europe could well make its own choices. Europe is a key element at the moment, in my view, in this system where geopolitical power is being reorganized. But what is Europe? I've not understood what Europe is and who Europe is. If Europe is the Europe of Brussels, we're off to a bad start. But if Europe is Germany, then we're off to an even worse start.
Time is out of joint, scrive Shakespeare.
The time is out of joint. Shakespeare wrote that in Hamlet. These few words seem to me to be revealing about what happens in the world in numerous domains, and no doubt have been for centuries. But do you really believe religion and morality can resolve things?
There's no religion that imposes a cultural system. We can't impose anything. We must believe individually and in a responsible manner regarding what's good and what's bad in exercising our personal freedom. And it's for that reason that the Church has a very, very important role, which has been failing for most of the last 30 years. This failure has led to a great part of the international political and economic world, international leaders, to no longer have this feeling for life. And if I no longer have this feeling for life, how can I give a meaning to my actions?
Dottor Gotti Tedeschi, io la ringrazio di essere stato con noi su Euronews.
Grazie a voi, è stato un grande onore e piacere.